I have the great pleasure of inviting our keynote guest to come and join me. Of course, he's in the office of the president, so we hope he's had a chance to see what we are doing and what our needs are, because we'll be knocking on your door. Mr. Philip Thigo, Special Envoy on Technology, Executive Office of the President. Please welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Am I the boring one who's coming to speak here today? Let me just say it's been a lot to take in. First of all, just for protocol, Honorable Justice Laibuta, Court of Appeal and Chair of Enable Board, Irene, of course, Executive Director of Enable. I cannot miss to say this. It's very fancy names, right? So Babushka, DJ Wiwa, Queen of the Decks, and a poet, and a very savvy businesswoman. I heard you do a plug there. MC on wheels, you know. I didn't know ADHD was also a hustler in steroids, because she was doing 1,000 things. So, and Emmanuel, I don't know why Emmanuel is. Let me confess, for those who have happened to have known me when I was younger, I had a serious stutter, a serious one. I was in Olympic Primary School, and it was quite a challenge. But Emmanuel, the greatest people had stutters. James Earl Jones, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, Tiger Woods, Ed Sheeran, and last but not least, the President of the United States, Joe Biden. So you have lots of examples to emulate, and I think you will get there in time. Many of us tried. I know speech therapy is very expensive. Some of us found a way to get technology to get us there. I was in Second Life, for those of you who are as old as I am. Second Life was one of the oldest virtual worlds. So I had found time to be there. And it improved my speech a lot. So you can have technology now. It was expensive then. Now it's affordable. So I think if you have speech challenges, there are options now. Let me quickly get into my speech. It's not a speech. You're really making me work hard. I never knew what color this was. I had to Google. It's called shark gray. I'm wearing a shark gray suit, black shoes, black socks. I wouldn't even dare to say what this tie is. And I have glasses. I think I'm dark black, for those who know me, from where I come from. Anyway, you made me work hard, but you made me think a lot, and that's what I kept on saying. You really, really have made me think a lot, and thank you so much for this experience, because sometimes we take things for granted, but I guess we have to listen differently. I'm going to try and sort of frame my sort of keynote around having looked at the program, but also what I'm increasingly doing now, both for Kenya, but also at the global stage, is basically around how do we ensure that we have a digitally inclusive future. And I think having listened to the previous context, I know the context was very heavy around persons with disability, but let me also talk about a global context, because persons with disability are actually within this environment. And so we know now that we have three big shifts. And I think Irene has mentioned, of course, we have a shift around climate. The world, as you know, some of us who are thinking of selling our cars and buying boats, we know what happened last week. We have a challenge of demography. The world is getting very young, but also getting very old. And then, of course, technology, as we've had, has been a big accelerator, but also a big equalizer. But I think beyond that, and I know we've had, and I know I was talking to Oscar, one of my good friends from State House, around the interview that happened this morning, and to think about how technology is making new breakthroughs, but also how we can shift global economic power around how technology works, but for people. But I think the reality is that things are moving very quickly. And yet the world demands us also to be patient. And so I think there's a balance. But I think the challenge is also technology is no longer something we leave in the office. What is the first thing you looked at today morning, for those who can see? Also for those who can touch. The first thing? Your phone, right? It probably woke you up as an alarm. And so technology definitely is impacting how we live, learn, work, communicate, and engage. It's very much in every aspect of our life. But I think if we look at digital this year, and it was interesting to hear the colleague who was speaking to Safaricom, and you're right, Irene. I mean, if mobile is 5.6 billion, meaning that 69% of people have mobile phones, then there has to be a way that that platform becomes inclusive. And so I think something that I'm really going to take it up to that extent. But also, as you see, the world is increasingly getting very young. Internet adoption, as you see, is getting high, but we know we just have a problem this week because of fiber cuts. But I think it is something that we have to think about that. But as you see in our region, it's not much happening. And so beyond even persons with disability, we have a general inclusivity challenge around technology that our continent still remains the least connected. Beyond that, you can see the massive unconnected populations. In our area alone, we have about 139 million people who do not have internet connectivity. And we've seen what technology can do, especially with persons with disability, but also persons who are also marginalized, whether it's poor populations or people in slum areas. But I always draw people into this piece, and this is why I was really excited to be here. It's what you do with it. You can see what other people do with it. You have connectivity, but all you do is chat and message. I think there are possibilities where with access, we can actually do better than just chat and, not that I'm saying chat and message is bad. I think it works. A little bit of data, 1 in 6 people are persons with disability, and glad to have had Honorable Laibuta talk about children, is 1 in 10 children experience a disability. About 1 billion people need assistive tech. That's about 2 years ago. That will double by 2050. 96% of the top online web pages have accessibility issues. 96%. I am telling big tech, I can see your logos there. 96%. That's a problem. If it was 50, yes. When it's 96%, it's a genuine design problem. And so we need to think about how we design online for persons with disability. But I think, let's be honest, and I wanted to bring that there. There's money. That's what you're missing. So if you are only 96%, you're missing 8 trillion of disposable income with persons with disability. It actually makes business sense. And so let's think about it in a way. Technologies that I'm increasingly seeing that are driving inclusivity, of course, AI, that's a new child born on the block. We've seen AI-powered readers. We've seen translation tools. We've seen AI customizing learning content, including kids with autism. You can actually, if you go the extra effort with this technology, do better. Blockchain, and we know this, persons with disability, because somebody has to collect money for you. With blockchain, money can get to you without necessarily being we know how it works here. Issues around security and transparency, which is a big deal. Of course, additive technology, we know with 3D printing, we've seen new materials, but also we're seeing new solutions. It all talks about investment and purpose. How do we, by design, leverage on these new technologies? Of course, Internet of Things, we know sensors are everywhere, whether it's in public transportation, whether it's in brain-computer interfaces. The possibilities are endless with this technology. And this year, I think a lot of investment went into spatial computing. We've seen what Apple has done. We've seen what Meta is doing around getting virtual, augmented, and mixed realities, which is important. And one of the benefits of these technologies that was not as advanced as it is right now. But I think immersive worlds are interesting because then it disconnects you from a world where you're judged because of how you look, but then you can basically engage in different ways. So spatial computing is growing, and I think that's a possibility, and we need to think about that as we move forward. I think basically, as we know, the world is increasingly integrated. Much is getting virtualized. So even as we're talking about devices, and Honorable Laibuta and I had you talk about it, I think in this day and age, people should not be talking about expense at the last mile device. I think is an excuse. A lot of things are virtualized right now. We have cloud computing, a lot of computational skills, a lot of computation capability can happen remotely. And so the excuse of cost for last mile device, I think there's another excuse. And we have to think about whether we're being honest or not. And so, as we know, COVID-19, I think was an opportunity. I still believe it was a big opportunity, that the world increasingly became very virtual. And so I always put this up, that a lot of jobs started going, but also a lot of jobs started coming in. I will leave the slides, don't worry. I don't have to take photos. Open government is a good thing. I'll share that. But I think if you look at the jobs that are growing, AI and machine learning, sustainability, business intelligence, information security. If you're in this room, I would not lie to you that you're best placed for these jobs than many of us who are hardened onto the old jobs as bank teller. Hey, who's a bank teller in the room? Bank tellers, don't be shy. Postal service clerk, cashier, data entry. Okay. I'm just saying you'll be jobless, so you need to talk to some of us very quickly. But let's be honest. So those are the big skills on the rise. So critical thinking doesn't require much. Analytical thinking, technology literacy, you just need to be fluent so that you can adapt very quickly. Curiosity and lifelong learning. Reliance, flexibility, agility. If the face of Africa was anything, it was number 5. And so for me, I need to get this mindset here, that you are far much more better prepared than some of us, if you're in this room, because that's just where the world is going. And so please, I'll leave this. Those are the big skills. And we know why this has happened. We are more connected. We are highly mobile. We have very funny new behaviors. I know Babushka is on TikTok. They're big on social. Massive on social. Yeah, please do that. Stop taking photos of your food before you eat. We have strange behaviors. I'd rather do that than before you eat, take a photo. I don't get it. But again, I think it's a Gen Alpha millennial thing. Apparently, the English alphabet ended, and we started Greek alphabets, a dead language, but has found itself with millennials. But basically, all we are saying is that the young is getting younger. 75% of you guys will be working by next year. But I think it's interesting that, think about it. Simply because we are more online, we have more technology, that 90% of data, as it is right now, was created in the last 2 years. Think of the opportunity. 40 plus years of my life doesn't matter. The last 2 years mattered. So you're not late. You can start now. And every 2 years, it will double. So what matters is where will you be when it starts to double. So growth is getting very exponential. Let me talk about the challenges, but be very quick. Anybody who knows me, I don't like talking about challenges. I think inequality is growing amidst prosperity. And I think the expression in the morning here was very clear, unless we are deliberate. We have great technological advancements. We can send a man to the moon. We can send a satellite to find, life somewhere else outside the galaxy, but then we still have a widening gap of inequality. And it's about decisions that we make around choices, around investments. And I think finance has come up every single, I think in the morning that was what I was hearing. Finance, investment. We have to be deliberate. And we have to be conscious that we cannot have this inequality amidst prosperity, and not a few of us should be prospering when a majority is still suffering from exclusion. I think that's something that we have to do by design, and we have to think about it. And we've seen it. There are systemic issues, and I don't have to talk about this. Glad that Enable at least is talking about standards. Only Kenya has it. I think we really must think how to scale that. We have seen biases around algorithms, and this is important. And hopefully some folks in the room here who are in technology will get into the business of coding, into the business of AI, into the business of machine learning. Because remember, any AI tool that is being developed now comes with an intrinsic bias of the developer. So the more we have you in those spaces, the more AI stops being biased, because I cannot give what I don't have. It's just a human condition. And so let's get a lot of you guys here. I heard in the morning about procurement, and you've seen that it's failed to do that. Hopefully AGPO and the rest will start to figure that one out in terms of thinking about systemic issues. We are seeing issues around practicability, right? So again, the expensive thing was mentioned, insurance doesn't cover it. Industries need to think very quickly how to do that. Technical support and maintenance, and we know those are the skills that are growing, so can we get a lot of people in those skills? And then compatibility issues. The other piece, of course, is the issues of data, prioritization, and context, and I don't have to belabor that. I think research. You cannot move without data. And the sense that I have, and my take-home from this is, with NACOSI, with the National Agency for Science, Technology, and Innovation, with a couple of folks that I'm already talking to right now, is you need to think about how do we also ensure that research looks into the area of persons with disability with the wealth of knowledge that was here before. And I like the phrase, you cannot do for us without us. I think somebody said it in the morning. So it needs to be an inclusive sort of design as we do that. Quickly, and I always end up with the hope, is that, as I said, there's an opportunity to shape the future. The future is not yet cast, is not yet shaped, and I can speak from authority on this piece. This is the time to get in. It's not late. And so if we can galvanize around enable as I hear, let's figure out how to ensure that a lot of these advancements also build for everybody and not just to build for a few. And I say it's not cast. Of course, the big thing is, as we know, silos. I see this as a silo. I need to see you in other places. I don't see you. Apart from Bernard is my stalker. Where's Bernard? He's there. That's my only stalker there. Let's get out of the silos. Was very glad to come here so that we have some integration. And so that we begin to understand, it has to be deliberate. Unless you do it, nobody will do it. The other piece, of course, is investments. And I always put that thing, that I also need you to help us. Because as I said, as much as you look at persons with disability in Africa as a marginalized group, Africa in itself is marginalized globally around technology. So there's a bigger piece of advocacy around building the industry of the future, but also the infrastructure that will power the future. So whether it's data, whether it's energy, whether we buy enough computers or not, we still need to power it. Electricity is still expensive. Only a third of the continent is connected. We have issues around innovative financing. Everybody is struggling with finance. And so how do we ensure that we can innovatively finance this new revolution? And they're all interdependent. How do we ensure that our partnerships are a little bit different, not predatory, but are more respecting and are more collaborative? And finally, I think how do we ensure that we have a regime that skills, reskills, and upskill? We need to rethink. I've had education, but I'm going to skill. That how we skill must be different because the world is changing very quickly. How we skill, reskill, upskill is important. Somebody reminded me in the morning, and I kept on hearing that some disabilities are discovered very late, which means we have to figure out how to quickly have capabilities to reskill based on those sort of realities. And so how we do this, I think, and this is an all-in effort, and hopefully we can work on that. As I said, it makes business sense. I had to bring this because a lot of things are going online. So 56% of persons with disabilities have cited accessibility of not using platforms. So people who are selling online, think again. I'm still making the business case because sometimes the business case is what sells. And so hopefully we can think through this. Irene, this is to you. Part of my work, of course, as a Kenyan Special Envoy on Technology is to help the country in terms of global negotiations on technology. This year is a big year. We are having the Summit of the Future and the Global Digital Compact. For those of you who saw the weekend, there was a civil society meeting. The Secretary General was here. I did not see many of you there. What I will need from you, from this meeting, is some recommendations. Before you send me the recommendations, please look at that report. I sit in the board. As direct as it is, let me have it by 31st of May, if I can. That's the Global Digital Compact and the Summit of the Future. I'm in the UN Secretary General's advisory board on artificial intelligence. As you give me, I'll put it in as is. Just refine it and send it to you. I wish I was here before. We passed that. There's an AI resolution. I know it doesn't have a language of person with disability, but there's another opportunity. There's a new resolution on the floor of the United Nations General Assembly on capacity building. Hopefully I can get that language and I'll make sure it goes in. The faster you do it, the better. I'm very practical, as you see. But hopefully I think the imperative, and this is my job really, how do we build a safe, secure, inclusive, and trusted digital future that puts people in all their aspects at the center. And these are a couple of the moments. I always say seize the moment, right? The first one I think is including private sector. Please put in money. It's about money, let's be honest. The second thing I think is about enforcement. I've had policies, legislation, but I think enforcement is always an issue. Let's see how we can enforce disability rights. I think we need to train, including citizens, on the need to resource. Honorable KJ was not here. I think it's something that I'll try and get him. We go to the same coffee shop. I'll try and get him around resourcing. I think that's important. I think the idea, and I've had it in the morning, and hopefully we can get a lot of you guys in the big innovation spaces, whether it's with KONZA, whether it's the Kenya Innovation Agency, so that you can be part of the innovation ecosystem. And I think the final one is about collaboration. Let's not just meet in an Enable, it's called conference, Enable Africa Conference. It only happens once in a year, and during COVID it doesn't happen. Let's see how we can make this more deliberate. Happy to host some roundtables and have conversations with other people. My colleague Kate is somewhere here. She does that. And with that, thank you so much and wish you the best.